Greetings. There was a pretty big milestone just the other day, and I thought I would kind of do a little contrast. Most all of you have heard of World War II. Most of you know that Adolf Hitler was in that war as the leader of Germany, Nazi Germany. You know that Joseph Stalin was the leader of the Soviet Union or Communist Russia at the time. And the crazy milestone is that the war in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine has actually lasted now longer than that crazy World War II between Germany and Russia. Now, I'm not doing World War II compared to anything. I'm doing when Germany invaded Russia and went to war with Russia. That event happened on June 22nd of 1941. When that war ended, which is May 8th, 9th of 1945, the war between Russia and Ukraine has now lasted longer than that event. But I thought it was interesting to see the scale of those wars and to make sure that you've learned just a couple of terms to understand what's kind of going on. When Germany invaded Russia on June 22nd of 1941, 3 million soldiers with tanks and airplanes invaded the Soviet Union. 3 million. The Germans, of course, put a lot more soldiers in uniform over the course of time, and Germany fought more than just against Russia. So by the time the war was finished, 17 million Germans had been in uniform. Of the 80 million Germans there were, the Germans fought against the Russians for 4 long years, and in that time they lost 4 million against the Russians and about 1 million against the other allies, which is the United States and England and France. The Russians had 34 million soldiers in uniform. That's twice as many as Germany, out of 195 million that could have. And so they had about twice the population. They had twice as many people in uniform, but they didn't lose just twice as many people. The Germans lost in World War II 5 million people. The Russians lost 20 to 25 million. And of those 20 to 25 million, more than half are civilian deaths that were just people murdered by the Germans. The thing that's frightening about that Russian war against Nazi Germany is the Russian dead equates to at least 1 out of every 10 Russians died in that war. 1 out of every 10. Holy cow. Now, to put in contrast, the war with Russia and Ukraine is a much smaller scale, although big. And the Russians invaded Ukraine in February of 2022 with about 150 to 200,000 soldiers, way less than the 3 million the Germans invaded Russia with. The present day amount of Russians that are serving and fighting in Ukraine is somewhere between 600 and 700,000. So they don't even have 1 million of their soldiers at war right now. The Ukraine, on the other hand, have about 900,000 soldiers, and they have about 4 million in reserve. So the Ukrainians are not going to give up tomorrow unless all their money and support gets cut. But the Ukraine have lost 100,000 dead and 400,000 casualties. What's a casualty? Well, a casualty is dead and wounded added together. And the reason it's a number that we care about is that it means that number of people cannot fight anymore. In the Ukraine war against Russia, the Ukrainians have lost 100,000 dead, but they have 400,000 casualties. So they've had a lot of wounded and hurt people because there's now a lot of drone strikes and a lot of missile strikes that don't even take into account who they're killing and how many they're killing. And so all of these numbers are a little estimated. But the weirdo one, crazy. When Germany invaded Russia in World War II, there were Hungarians that were allied to Germany, there were Romanians, there were Bulgarians, and there were Italians. So there were some Italians and Bulgarians and Romanians and Hungarians who died against the Soviet Union as well. And they're all allied to Germany against Russia. But Russia going to war with Ukraine, which is its neighbor, has brought over 11 to 15,000 North Koreans. You just have to ask yourself, do the North Koreans know where they are on Earth? And they know why on Earth they are fighting. But 11 to 15,000 North Koreans are fighting Ukrainians for Russia. And the North Koreans have another 25,000 that they're going to ship to help Russia fight Ukrainians. Why are you there again? And then North Korea is North Korea, so does that sort of beg just the question, what on earth is on his mind in North Korea? The past whispers, if we'll just listen, and there's so many lessons we can learn from the past and history. I hope that you'll keep watching. Thank you.